Hello and welcome to our Facebook Live today on how accountants can take advantage of changes in tech to reduce costs and increase efficiency. Really excited to have with me a good friend of mine, Jamie Beresford. Hello, Jamie, and welcome to today's live.
Okay, Nick, good to be here with you.
So, Jamie, while everyone's getting online and getting into the conversation, I just want to have a quick chat to you. So, prior to COVID, you actually lived overseas in Ubud in Bali, and prior to that, the Philippines. But you're now back in Australia. So tell us a little bit about how that journey's been.
Yeah, it's been interesting, bit of a shock to the system. My kids hadn't really even lived in Australia before. So it's been a bit of an adjustment settling them in and settling back into life. Obviously haven't been, we're sort of still trying to work out what the next step is. We only came back for what was supposed to be a month. And that's obviously has extended out. So we're kind of settling, but not settling. So yeah, we'll see how we go. Hopefully some things and some travel options open up towards the end of the year. But first world problems, mate. It's fine. Plenty of people worse off than us.
Yeah, I agree. So today we're going to be talking about how accountants can take advantage of changes in tech to reduce costs and increase efficiency. Now I'm going to break that down into layman's term and really go, the reality is that a lot of accounting firms these days are cloud-based. But yet they've still got these big, clunky, expensive servers sitting in their office. Their IT companies are still charging them big fees to manage it. So today we're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But before we get there, I know that you run there's two aspects to your business, or two businesses that serve the accounting and bookkeeping market. Can you tell us a little bit about Practice Protect and Fresh Method and what they do, because they are slightly different?
Yeah, sure. And I think Practice Protect, I think it's fair to say, is probably the main brand that is sort of more known out there, and we're known more for that cybersecurity aspect to what we do. But a lot of people don't realise that the Fresh Method business, or the managed IT services business, is our kind of it's been around since 2005. It's what I started back in as a 25-year-old, and it's my core sort of skill set and my core business, and we've had that service running, and it was those skills that we sort of brought across to the Practice Protect product. So IT services for accountants, helping them capitalize on the cloud changes that they've made in the last decade, and Practice Protect is cybersecurity for accountants, protecting them from cyber threats.
Excellent. So, I mean, when I met you back in the EO days, that was prior to Toa Global even existing. It was prior to Practice Protect. You were Fresh Method, and that's all I knew you as. So it's been great to see Practice Protect really come out. So when we're talking about Practice Protect and we're talking about the cybersecurity, this is obviously even more important. We've been banging that bandwagon with you for over 7 years now about the importance of it. And a lot of the time it was accounting firms really went, well, I'll do that for my global teams, but I don't need it for my local teams. How has COVID affected that? What are the main cybersecurity threats that accounting firms are seeing these days, and how can that be counteracted with, the product of Practice Protect?
Yeah, so from a COVID perspective, is the work from home. All of a sudden, you've got remote team members, and essentially you've got your accounting firms are extending their environment, their clients' information into all these home environments, okay, that are outside of their control. So we call them little, almost like little digital outposts. So computer systems, passwords being typed on computer systems in home offices, shared computers, all of this sort of thing. So it's really increased the sort of the need for some kind of security and some kind of way to demonstrate due diligence to clients from a security perspective.
Excellent. And have you seen an increase in accounting firms wanting to or looking at Practice Protect during these times? Because obviously prior to COVID, a lot of people were less, I suppose, worried about these types of things. But now that people are remote, did you see a spike at the start when we went remote? Everyone was remote. Did you see a spike in interest then around, well, hang on, how are we going to manage this side of the business? From the
100%. COVID sparked that, but I wouldn't say there wasn't a lot of interest before that. I think the cybercrime awareness has been growing since, really started kicking off in 2017, 18. But right now, if you're asking, what's the number one threat, or why is there actually so much more, it's email mailbox hacking. That's what we're seeing the main increase as this year. So someone gets one of those emails, it might be from someone they know, they click on something they shouldn't, they enter a password somewhere they shouldn't, etc. All of a sudden their mailbox gets hijacked. Two things that will happen. First of all, you'll send an email to all of your clients and contacts to propagate that infection. We've all received those emails asking us to click. Secondly, what we're starting to see now is actually more targeted approaches where they're actually going into the mailbox and going through the emails and figuring out that the trusted relationship that accountants have, and sending targeted emails to clients with more specific requests. So click here to, I'll just update your bank details here, these sorts of things. Hey, I prepared your financials early, click here. So mailboxes is the number one. If there's one thing sort of that is really, really growing, is email hacking and mailboxes getting breached rather than the accounting applications themselves.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I got an email a couple of days ago actually from someone in the industry that has had that, and they've had to send the email saying that your data might have been compromised. I mean, the only thing they have on me is an email, but when I received the email, I felt for this business because I was just imagining, I mean, the email, imagine sending out to your clients, which they had to send out to everyone that's had any interaction, saying we've been breached, we're investigating it, you know, we're putting in place new measures, you know, we recommend you do these steps. I mean, that's, you know, you're the trusted advisor and you get breached like that. And it can be just the simple things like emails, of which you talked about. And I think, Jamie, there's one aspect to it, which is obviously the technology you can put in place to try and stop it. But the secondary part, which is probably the more important part, is the educational piece on team members. Now, what do you do? Because I know that you have an education program, you have a certification that you actually talk about and teach your clients on these things. What are they? Yeah, what is the education piece of what you do with Practice Protect?
Yeah, so we have a training program with Practice Protect, and it's essentially educating team members on how to spot a scam, what to do in the event that they do receive something, or they feel that they might have clicked on something. I'm just helping build that awareness, and a lot of that's playing into the insurers now are asking for that, so they're mandating that there's training in place. So yeah, just making sure, you know, the saying we use is it's easier to trick than hack. It's not people hacking through firewalls, it's people tricking people into giving up information, and the training essentially helps busy accounting team members understand how to spot those scams.
Yeah, excellent. So if we're now looking at the IT side of it, so let's talk a little bit about the Fresh Method side. Now, I remember when I had my accounting and financial planning business, we had an expensive server in our office. We had to replace it every 3 to 5 years. We paid an enormous amount of money every month, and who knows what they actually did do. One time it went down, and the backups that were meant to be happening never worked, so we weren't getting the backups we thought. That way was obviously the old way. When I had my firm, there wasn't a huge amount. It was moving into the cloud. But obviously these days, Jamie, what's the point of a server in an office now when the majority of accounting applications and the majority of modern firms these days are using cloud-based applications? Why do we need these chunky servers in our office now?
Yeah, you're right. A lot of people don't realise that accountants are actually early adopters of cloud. You know, Xero's done such a great job of educating the industry many years ago now, and that's kind of flowed through, and we're sort of at the final hurdle of that. And you know, not all firms now still have what we call a clunky server. Quite often, the server's pushed into a legacy type scenario. But it's often just that sort of traditional server-based thinking, because accounting firms have often moved more rapidly cloudward into the browser-based world than IT guys generally, who have to look after a whole range of industries and have a sort of a one-size-fits-all approach to their IT. So it's not just servers. Like, I don't want to sort of say, oh, look, accountants are all still on the server, or they've still got a server even though they're cloud. That happens, but it's also just that traditional IT thinking that goes along with that infrastructure base. Like, the IT with the cloud has just changed so rapidly, and there's real opportunity in reducing the complexity around your cloud apps without having those kind of heavy applications to run anymore.
So what does Fresh Method do? Because obviously one of your niches or the main specialty you deal with is accountants. What do you actually do from the Fresh Method side of the business?
Yeah, sure. Well, it's an accounting specific managed IT services provider. Essentially, what we do first is come in and reduce the cost and complexity of IT. So we can do that because we only work with accounting firms. So we know what applications you use, and we know what sort of footprint you need and what you don't need. So often that is sort of removing legacy data center stuff often. Might be some internet connections that need to be repriced. There might be some legacy servers kicking around that are still sort of attracting a monthly fee or a CapEx fee. We'll tidy all of that up, and then it's really about taking the accounting firm on that modernization journey. So a lot of kind of tidying up the backyard at the moment. Firms want to utilizing what they already have more to their advantage. They want to be integrating their applications more, and they want to be able to get a fast response when something goes wrong, even if it's something small. They want to make sure that if there's a deadline looming, even if it's something simple like someone's forgotten a password or someone's keyboard's not working, for example, they want to make sure that they're bound by an SLA and they get that issue, no matter how small it is, resolved. So that's kind of what we've done quite well, that reduced cost and complexity, modernization journey, and really fast and a good customer experience from a user support perspective.
Excellent. So for anyone that's just joined us on this live, we're talking about how accountants can take advantage of changes in tech to reduce cost but increase efficiency. Jamie, one of the questions I always have, and it's something that I'm not fully across, but what are the benefits of being on a local server versus a hosted server versus the full cloud? What's the, for us that are non-IT people, what's the real benefits between them?
Sure. Well, that depends on your app stack. So we will work with a firm to move things cloudward, okay? However, there's always applications that are going to take time to move to the cloud. So that poses the question, okay, I need to have a server. How is the best way to procure that server in 2020? And there's going to be a bit of shock horror when I say this, but we are starting to see a trend moving away from private data center hosting back to on-prem. And before that all sounds backwards and everyone jumps onto me, let me clarify. Things have changed in the last 5 years, okay? Servers are a lot cheaper to buy. They work a lot better. Disaster recovery platforms are a lot cheaper and a lot more efficient to run. And when you consider the cost of, say, keeping that server, even if it's just running a small amount of your footprint, keeping that server in a data center, you're going to pay a monthly fee. It is often a four-figure sum, and compared to a one-off CapEx cost, let's say, it's generally speaking, we're talking between $5,000 and $8,000 for a 20-user accounting firm nowadays for that sort of 1 in 3 year cost. It might often be the last cycle. There might be a conversation around, look, we're going full cloud, but we're kind of 12 to 18 months away from that. We're paying $4,000 a month for our hosted environment. How can we do that in a better way? And often just presenting those two options and providing the reassurance around the disaster recovery, because that was the big one, right? With on-site servers, what if the site goes down, etc. Covering all of those things, often making sure that they're taken care of. It comes down to brass tacks, and the brass tacks state, especially in this day and age where everyone's reviewing bills and expenses at the moment, the brass tacks lean very much towards going on-prem for legacy server environments as firms start to remove themselves and go full cloud.
And I think that this is one of the topics that I love most around, or we always talk about the perfect growth business focuses on people, process and tech. And I think that the tech part of it is in a lot of ways people are buying applications because they think it's going to be more beneficial and better for them, but then they forget about the internal tech that really drives the business, the simple things like the communication channels, the emails, all of those, what I call basic or fundamental things within the business. They're not the sexy things, so they're not the things we go after. I know that COVID, obviously, everyone loves to reduce costs. I mean, I don't think I've spoken to any business owner during these times that hasn't looked at their P&L and really scrutinized the cost that they're paying for everything. So I'd assume that, you're talking about reducing costs, increasing efficiency, that you would have had a good number of accounting firms coming to you and say, look, can you at least review what we're doing? Have you got any, sort of case studies or stories that you could share around a firm that you've been able to review it and then reduce their cost, but, not give them less for less cost, but give them more for less cost, if that makes sense?
Yeah, sure. I met Steve Watson from National Audits, multi-site. I met him in at Xerocon 2019, very last physical Xerocon we had.
Yeah.
Um, and we got chatting, and we sort of we were sort of meeting one evening, and he sort of said, "Oh, look, we're in the process of reviewing our IT. Can you guys come and have a look?" So we had a look at what he was doing, and what we realised is they had like a hosted server environment. So I think it was actually a Citrix environment. And but what had happened is the 5 years since they got that environment commissioned, on an icon by icon basis, they'd moved their applications to the cloud. And what we realized was this firm was actually logging into this remote server in this data center and then accessing browser-based apps from inside there. There was a couple of things. We had to tidy up some file storage. There was still some files on the server, but what we realized was, hang on a second, all of these applications can be accessed from your browser. Let's get some security around your desktops. Let's have a look at your desktop environment, look at the devices that you're accessing all of these apps from, put some security around that. You don't actually need this server. And that was a huge saving straight off the bat. I think it was to the tune of around about 40K straight up, like overnight. So yeah, that's sort of one that sticks out in recent times. And that was really at the start. That was kind of, I think it was around about November-ish 2019. And then with COVID coming along, it's really ramped up because similar to accounting, Fresh Method is a professional service, right? And generally people don't change professional services providers easily. They have to have a real pain point and a real need. So we will just focus on the practice tech side of things and have been since sort of 2015, 2016. And we realized with COVID coming along, there was a lot of sort of stakes getting put into the ground now where people are going back a step and assessing everything and going, hang on a sec, our needs have changed. We've got work from home coming on. Plus, let's go back a step and reassess. Are we just doing what we're doing and using the provider that we're using and have the IT environment that we have? It's just because it's what we've always had. And that was kind of the start, that sort of Steve Watson example. Since then, it's been a real sort of change, a real renaissance to the point where Fresh Method is now really our number one focus. It's really where we're sort of putting a ton of resource into getting cranking.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, it's, to be honest, when I owned an accounting firm and financial planning business, I had no idea about IT. I mean, it's something that you pay because it runs your business, and it's the most important part, because without computers working and without, software working and being able to do your work, then your team can't be productive. But it's also one of those things, we're not IT experts. And I think that I think the industry's evolved a long way now, where the old way of doing IT is not necessarily needed with the new modern way of doing accounting and bookkeeping. And I know personally, the amount of calls I've got, particularly over the last 3 months, going, look, mate, I know that you know Jamie quite well, and I always disclose that we're friends and we've been doing, you've been a partner of ours for 7 years. We refer all of our clients to you because I think you understand this niche. And I have a lot ring up and say, look, just wanting to know about Fresh Method. We're going through the process with Jamie. It seems to be that we're saving a ton of money. I just want to make sure that it's not too good to be true, and that, I'm not missing something. And I always have the conversation and say, look, they understand the market. You don't have to pay them for the understanding every time they do work with you, because they work with you and tons of other accounting firms. So they know when you ring them what Xero is. They know what FYI Docs is. They know what all the applications are that you use. You don't have to educate them. And, I use a simple thing. A couple of months ago, one of our clients was having some challenges with their Xero, with their speed and their latency. And, the internet wasn't necessarily on our end, but it wasn't on their end. It was the path of traffic that they were going through. And I know that we got Dennis, the guru, I call him the tech guru within Fresh Method. He's also a partner of yours, obviously. But he came on and just basically went, well, the routing of Xero was going, all around the world, and then it was going to the team members. It was a simple thing that this other company had spent over $1,000 with their local IT guy that was trying to find out what the problem was. Dennis jumped in and went, bang, that's what it is. So I think for me, it's that real knowledge. What do you see, I suppose, the benefit of understanding all those little things have been, and how it can reduce the cost so much, is, I suppose, from that part?
Well, yeah, it's just being able to go deeper, being in a single vertical and actually understanding the workflow that happens on top of the technology. You know,
Mm.
IT platforms are one thing. And look, oh, hands down, in the last 10 years, keeping an IT platform has simplified and it's easier. I will tell you that. Okay. So you've got to add value in the actual application layer and the workflow layer. You know, what are these team understanding? Okay, they use these applications for this, and this is how the process works. And I think to a certain extent, we call ourselves bees because we kind of see what different firms are doing and ask a heap of questions and learn more about why they're doing it a specific way and seeing the guys that are doing it really efficiently, and then almost share those insights into other firms that are asking us what's the best way to what application should I be using for this process, how are other firms doing this, and just being able to be a catalyst between all of that is probably how we've been able to go deeper and add that kind of additional layer in the face of the fact that, yep, managing IT and keeping things working on a daily basis, servers do not blue screen when you look at them funny anymore, like they did 10 years ago. You've got to be able to do more, and you've got to be able to add value in more areas.
You know, 100% agree. So, Jamie, there's been so much content from today. I know there's plenty of takeaways. Any final words for our listeners that are listening to this live, or for anyone that is watching this after the live is finished? What are some final words for them?
Oh, look, a massive thanks for having us, Nick. I really appreciate coming on and being able to share with your audience. Obviously, guys, if you know where we are. Hopefully, I've been able to explain what we do and how we help. I hope everyone's going well. I truly do believe this current circumstances are temporary. I think launching into the first sort of quarter and half of next year, things are going to start to return to normal, and or what is the new normal, and it's going to be a lot of opportunity and change, and I'm really positive about 2021.
And I 100% agree. So I know that you put out a lot of content both via Face of Fresh Method and via Practice Protect on Facebook. You can find it on your websites, and if anyone's looking for more information, remote work, all those different types of things. Jamie, thanks so much for your time today, and look forward to continuing these chats in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Really appreciate coming along, and thanks everyone.
No worries. Thank you for listening, everyone, and we look forward to bringing you more of these in the coming weeks. Talk soon.